Sure, you want to do market? We can do market.
Yeah,
Let's do some market. Let's stop by the market, though. Oh, we got it's a triple take.
Dude,
What's up?
there should be a gun that
people
spawns in every room. What the fuck? Oh, okay, there's a gun, finally.
Blind across the page, man.
Optics here. Close range.
Oh, there's heavy over here.
I'm running down into the
some of that from a
village.
flat
There's a
line.
flat line next to it, yeah. Somebody's
spare
being
flat
brought
line?
back, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, it's a ship above us, never mind.
Hell yeah.
Supply ship.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna try to get good with these snipers. Ooh, a prowler.
Oh, that's you, that's you. I thought I heard an enemy.
You are the enemy. Yeah, I thought the ship was gonna like land here.
Yeah, it was super low when it flew over.
Is that you? No,
Oh, and dude's in the cave.
that's some other motherfucker.
Opening fire. Reloading.
Got one of them.
Taking fire. Getting shot at.
Both Revenant shield.
God damn, why can't I shoot?
Nice.
There we go. Two of them down.
That race
third
does
one
not
is
have a shield.
right
Okay,
there.
good shit.
Whoa, they just died.
Glory.
Zero.
Hell
I'm committing to what I got. I'm committing to
What?
the guns I got. So I dropped the blue light mag and stabilizer.
Oh, I thought somebody grabbed that.
Oh, look at all that energy.
I already have one.
Here, Grim, take one of these blue
Oh,
stocks. I took
yeah,
one for
I've been
each
putting
gun.
energy in different places. I think I put more in here.
Alright, yeah, I have 300 energy and 31 sniper bullets. That's more than enough. Ooh, gold helmet. Look at me go.
Close range.
More energy
Yeah, I'm
in
full on
there.
energy.
Level 2.
Man, we really pooped on that
We
squad.
did. And now I got a choke for this triple take, so we'll be doing more shots or more damage in those shots. Oh, some shooting going on at Skull Town.
Okay, okay.
Ooh, Sentinel.
Indeed.
No, I have a choke on my thing. I'll stick with the triple take, I think.
Is there a heavy mag or anything around?
No, I haven't seen one.
Thermite grenade here.
There's a U side up here.
Alright, let me just see what's up. All these bullets. Yeah, I'm W'd. Just call me W. It's close.
You guys want to push towards the skull town?
Yes. Okay, dude.
Oh, is there a level 3 shield in that box? I remember that's where I ran over there. Or
Not
level
what
2?
box? What?
What? No, I took it. I took it. I took
The
it.
one that got pinged?
Zero's wearing it.
Yes.
Ah, okay. Because after I heard that, I looked and you both had one, so I thought that it was still there.
Yeah, I took it like we were both in the box and he pinged it and I
Oh,
immediately
right there.
took it.
Ah, okay.
Oh, dudes. Yep.
Got one spotted.
God damn.
Shots fired.
Broke that shield on that one.
Yeah, fuck that. I'm
She down.
shot.
Oh shit. Where's
Right up
that
there.
coming from?
Caustic right here, right where I'm shooting. This dude's
Oh, it's so
jumping
laggy.
like insane, though.
Yeah, mine too. Me too.
He's down.
Oh, that other one's crawling. Never mind.
Where's the other one?
I don't know where the third is. Oh,
Get
the
up
third
here.
is right up here. Oh, a third, another squad from over there.
What? I did like 160 damage to him. I should have kept sliding. But I did
were
damage
you-
before that too. That should have fucking killed him. We did like the same damage. I did 28, then 150. He did 52, then 126. But I guess he had a better shield. I'm feeling a high damage game coming on. I think it's gonna be record breaking.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
can you feel it?
Record breaking.
One thing is certain. The ring isn't really complex, but it can be a little complicated. Wait, what'd I just say?
Time to win and stay alive. We all need that damage badge.
Damage.
I'm the jump master. I won't let you down, except by falling.
I'm feeling it tonight. We're gonna get that tonight. You wanna do the poop factory?
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
be the fan.
Let's be the fan that covers Kings Canyon and shit. We'll start down that end, I guess. Squad landing with me. Full squad. I went to the roof instead. Oh, they're...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, they were out here and grabbed this flatline already.
Not one.
I damaged one. I don't know where she went. Oh, there's one around here somewhere down low, I think.
Okay.
There's someone
Here's
right
someone
around.
running
Yeah.
around. Right there, just running that building.
There they are.
One upstairs, I guess.
Yeah, she's upstairs.
Oh, a Birdman right here. Shit.
Oh, she got me. She's being damaged by gas.
I got this person. I sprayed it with my down.
Oh, Birdman.
I need to get.
Yeah,
Oh,
fuck.
coming at you.
Somebody. Yeah.
Didn't have a chance to heal.
Yeah, I did pretty shitty right there. Alright, Kiss.
So is there 2 squads? Did you guys down anybody?
Yeah,
thought
I
you did
downed
down
the...
somebody.
I didn't down anybody.
I figured who it was, no.
Send them. I had to have been 2 squads because I downed 2 people. So
Did you guys see anybody when you were landing? I only saw the one squad. They like landed in the same room as me.
I didn't see anybody. Well, yeah, I did see the first person. I killed them, and then next person I saw downed them, but we both went down at the same time. Like each of our last bullets killed each other.
You know
Yeah, I think I only saw one
who they
person.
were? What character? I mean, not that it matters, but
It was a bang that I
yeah,
saw.
Banks who killed me.
I think it was a Wraith.
Okay, I downed a Birdman.
First one was a fast guy, I think.
But yeah, it was definitely 2 squads, or at least more than one.
His hair, his face. I mean, come on, you see it?
Your disorder is relentless. I embrace it.
Oh, also the video I was watching where they set the bots up to fight back. Guy was talking about, he was asking like, if anybody knows, like, can you like mention in the comments when you kill the bots, they drop like a thing that doesn't look like it would come from the bots because they look like dummies. I'm giving that up. But it's like a, it kind of looks like Pathfinder's head or like Crypto's drone or something.
That what drops? One of the ball
Yeah,
bots
they come out of
things?
the box. It's a thing that looks like Pathfinder's head or Crypto's drone. And he thinks it's like an Easter egg from like from the Titanfall universe that they haven't announced yet. So he was asking if anybody recognized it. Ooh, I'll take that. Yes, so please.
The fuck, man?
There's enemies
Okay.
around over in this area.
Alright. I'm looking for...
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm done. There we go. Find the gun.
In this long building on top.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, there's all 3 of them. I hit one for 6.
Yeah, I'm far from there.
give me 1 second. I'm coming.
Right here.
There's a
this
prowler
door.
down there again.
I got a Spitfire. Just have to stick with this for now.
Looks like it's just us.
Ah, nailed him with
Nice.
Yeah, that goes
Noise.
a bit. There's another one. Squad.
Good shit. Oh, did somebody just use the fucking... Somebody just used that close by revive thing to the west, I think.
Okay, Hydro Dam's the closest.
So somebody's getting brought back just outside the gates.
There you go, Grim. That's your kill if you want that blue body shield. Oh, you have a purple.
I got purple. Yeah, I just need bullets. I just really don't
Alright,
need
here,
bullets. Yeah, I got 6 little ones. I'll just use them up. And then for health, I just have 1 med kit, so I guess I'll just use that.
Alright, I'm gonna get 0 back. Oh, that's a shitty zip line. I thought... That's my bad. I thought I was setting it all the way to here. But instead I set it so you can't even use it to get back.
So, do I not take the zip line? No, that's so weird.
Yeah, I was trying to set one
you
for
set it
0
all
to
the
go
way.
back. To get those boxes. So if you want to go back and loot those boxes 0, we can. I'll cover you.
Alright. There might be a squad in there because somebody had just used that revive thing that's outside the gates to our original landing area.
Oh, is that a 3x you just pinged? Yeah, I'll come back for that.
Yes, sir.
I'm coming 0.
The 9-9.
I'm going with 0 back to the...
Oh yeah.
And there's a 2x
Oh, yeah,
there,
fuck
too.
this. Wrong button. That was a death spot, my bad. Oh, I'm gonna take this longbow instead.
Alrighty.
Purple shirt, blue bag.
You can get that. I want those sights.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's a 2x and
2
what else did I
3x's.
say? 3x. Yeah, 2 3x's and a 2x. Not my cup of tea.
VMAs.
Double tap, another 2x, lay down now. Pretty much all that's down here.
I didn't realize I had that on me.
There's a game care package dropping right here.
Okay. I think I just heard a robot
I don't
grapple.
see anybody. I'm gonna check it out. Well, that ain't good, is it? Mastiff. Who wants that shit?
I know, masters can be pretty good.
Body shield here, level 2.
I'm good,
Body
I'm
shield
good.
over here is 0.
It would be
What do you
badass
have,
in
an
a way,
Eva?
but
How come you only have a white shirt now, Joe? Or Evo?
No. Oh,
Yeah, I've got
0.
Evo, yeah.
You had a blue
oh,
one
Joe
earlier.
and me.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah
that's
purple.
0. Then why don't 0 have the blue one? Oh, because it's
Well, I just picked it up. I had an
Gotcha.
Evo.
That makes me all
I
up.
don't want to
yeah,
fuck with it right now, so
I don't know.
blue's
What's
probably
that?
better for now.
Does anybody want that Mastiff?
I was thinking about it.
Nah.
I don't know.
Because I'm going to pick it up. Nobody wants it. I'm dropping all my heavy shit.
Yeah, I
Nobody
mean,
wants
you
it.
want to run with it?
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's all my heavy bullets, blue light mag, white stabilizer. I think there's a blue stock in there. Something like that.
I got 109 bullets, so you can have all that if you want, Zero.
I'll take
Right
one
now
of
my-
those boxes.
My
There's
second
two more
gun's
there.
just a finisher when I run out of bullets, so.
Where's the care
I
package?
figure Mastiff has to be a good finisher gun.
Do you want a zip line?
Straight, I already picked it up. I left everything else
Oh,
up
you're
here.
back
There's
up here. I was
nothing
gonna
left
throw a
to
zip line down for you, that's all.
Oh yeah, I just climbed up. Where
Dude,
do we
there's
go?
something.
This shit doesn't look looted. You wanna go like over there or something?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh man. I tried to grapple the tree mid-fall and pull some Spidey Man shit. Did not work.
Did it not work?
Nah.
Oh, now there's a select fire. If I give away all my shit. And there's heavy.
There's a
blue
prowler right
knockdown.
back up there, I think.
That's
I
fine. The
know.
Mastiff is pretty sweet.
Yes, it is. I could use a like a good sniper clip. I got a white one. I could use
Alright.
something better.
Sniper what?
Mag.
Stock?
Yeah, and stock. I have a white stock also. So blue or better, mag or stock for the snipers.
There's mad heavy up in here if anybody wants it.
Yeah, I got like 100.
Oh, like 100.
I'm good.
Shit. Now I'm second guessing. So, you know, I love the prowler. Oh,
If you
well.
want to, I can give you some heavy back.
Nah, that's fine. I have an iron with like a purple mag, so I also like that too. All my really crazy stuff I usually get with the prowler, but I also have a mastiff, so hopefully, you know. I could use some health. If you find any syringes or med
Yeah,
kits.
I got you. I got some of both.
Yeah, I haven't found any.
You don't have any?
No, I haven't found many. I've got a med kit and 2 syringes, but
Here,
That's exactly what I have, yeah.
I'm trying to come and give you guys stuff.
okay.
Uh,
Dr. Joe.
I'm good with that. I think
You need any cells?
I could heal myself.
I'm actually
2
going to drop a
times.
couple because
I'm good on
give myself a slot.
shields,
Okay.
shit.
Here's a blue sniper
oh
stuff.
yeah, I just picked one up. Thank you. So yeah, a mag would be
squad.
good.
Somebody might rush on us. There's more syringes in here, yeah. Is it burning?
Oh,
Is
thank
that
you,
this?
thank you.
No. You see them? Okay.
Heavy ammo.
Now I'm good on heals.
Ooh, and I got a use site. Woohoo.
Yeah, oh, we better move. We got 15 seconds.
Oh shit, where do we have to get? Oh yeah, we have to get on an angle. It's close. Watch, people might be pushing in from
Yeah,
the
I
right.
got a zip whenever we want to use it.
Oh, which way?
Can we
Okay. you
cli-
wanna
oh,
go?
we can climb up right here. Maybe this would be good. Go up these
Yes,
steps.
caught on the bottom of the wall. That's exactly what I wanted to have. Yeah, yo. What's up, Tower? Welcome to the fun time.
What? Okay.
Fun time.
I've got sniper ammo here.
I'm a spider robot. Oh shit, you know what? I gotta do those little beacons, but I don't even know where they are. I guess there's no more there in the circles.
They show up on the map.
You just
Oh,
were you doing that on purpose, Joe? You're like, You're standing at the top of the roof, like waving from side
No,
to side.
he does that sometimes. I don't know why.
You're just like, oh yeah, look at me, going left and right like you're waving like in a parade or some shit.
Yeah, when Zero was him.
I think I heard shit popping where we landed.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Back in
Yeah,
there.
I just heard a grenade.
And I hear something there too.
I could throw a zip straight across, like over to there. Do we want to do that?
Something good this way.
Well, maybe somebody might be hiding on one of the corner things, so we might want to save the zips, because you know everybody likes to do that here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hide up there, and when we can pull out our own zip and bum rush them, I feel like that's a good advantage.
Yep, they're up top across the way.
Definitely. Oh, you see them? Oh, they're up on that other corner thing. Ah, you
Yep.
can see them? Okay.
They're shooting the opposite direction.
How many do you
one.
see up there?
Yeah.
Just one?
I wonder if I can throw my ult up to that fool.
We could zip up and take high ground if you want.
Alright.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
I'm
Whoops.
gonna throw it from here so it's a long zip,
Trying
so
to
we can
unload my
shoot
thermal.
them.
Yeah. Okay. Oh no, I missed it.
Oh god, I bounced off.
All right, he just went down too.
I hit that kid once.
Oh,
Okay.
he's running around here.
Oh yeah, I see him around here.
Wait, did I just hear?
Oh, you knocked
No,
him.
I didn't knock
okay.
him. I didn't knock him.
Dude, he was. This kid's
Who's in there?
crawling
Is
away
somebody in there,
ultra
Zero?
quick. He's crawling ultra quick, dude. He's fucking cheating.
Whoa!
I got him.
Suck my nubs.
Somebody zipping? Oh, there's another zip over there to go up top.
Oh shit! Yeah, they are.
Where they? Which up top, Joe?
Above us.
So they're up top.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying?
Oh, they're shooting, they're shooting, they're shooting.
Shit.
Recharging shields.
Oh no! I used my ultimate and fell off. Fucking waste. Oh,
Yeah,
you're up there, Joe? Is he dead? or
they're
is he
above me.
jumped off?
They're up there.
Oh
They're
my
up here.
god, no! I just barely fucking made that shit.
I hit a kid for 66 up there.
How do they move? I don't know where they are.
God damn, why do I keep bouncing off that motherfucker?
Bangalore just threw ultimate at us.
I'm going for where the ship is.
Okay.
The respawn ship.
They're zipping up. They're zipping
You
up.
see them yet? Oh, they're zipping up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they're looting.
Oh.
Alright, he's down. Oh,
There's somebody over there, Zero. Yeah, you see him?
I gotta heal up. Ah, shit.
Okay, okay. I've lost all ability to shoot my goddamn gun, apparently.
They're over here. Fuck, man. Now the
Yeah,
coming over here, Joe?
There's two
Yeah,
over
right,
here.
Oh, you jumped
Yeah.
off?
down on the bottom.
They're both around this little building.
Right here, Joe. Right here.
Yeah, there was at least 3 of them down there.
I don't understand what's with my aim tonight. It's fucking terrible. Dude, this kid that like, I don't know if he jumped off after you guys shot him and downed him. He was crawling double speed, dude. He was like a little spider scurrying along. He's like fucking ridiculously fast. I've never seen that
Scary
before.
code.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It's the cheating stuff right there.
Yes.
Bum, bum, Bah, 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 bah. Ice in my neck is as cold as the fridge. Bah, 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 bah.
Science is unapologetic.
Alright.
I was created for this. I'm pretty good at this. Okay, I do fly, but not this time.
Sorting factory.
All right.
Follow the leader. All right, look at this. Look at this. No hands.
I'm laying far side of the roof.
All right. Grim, you got 2 dudes landing with you down there, I think.
Somebody on those steps peeping. Fuck, come on, give me the gun, bitch.
They just jumped off, Grim. He jumped off like down here. One of them did.
There's somebody like right here or something.
Oh, there's one behind us.
Oh, they came in the door that I was at.
I got the one behind us.
Oh, you got them?
Oh, another one right here.
You fuck with the wrong one, son.
Got the banner. Time to get a beacon.
Give me a shirt, give me a shirt.
That's...
Behind you.
Oh, behind you, behind you.
I picked up alternator with no bullets in it.
He went up. He went up top. I was grabbing one away. This
Where
way.
the fuck did he go? I don't know. I need bullets. I only have Peacekeeper, and I'm not good with that.
Alright.
Recharging shields.
Alright, I got a couple bullets for y'all in there. Where's the respawn?
Oh, shit, that didn't work.
Out and to the left.
82% to grapple.
Not that far. Yeah.
She got bamboozled.
100%. People right in here.
Alright, I'm gonna start the respawn.
Just bring it back. Just bring it back. Yeah. Just leaving some surprises for 'em. I'll run around on the roof so I don't know what's going on.
Zero those boxes right over there if you want to loot that.
I'm looking for the ping. Oh, okay.
And there's shirts in here.
Body shield here. Level 1.
Are there people where our boxes were at or
I
something?
don't know. We were chasing people through here.
I'm not.
Oh, I hear
there's
somebody
people in
close
this
to me. I hear
building.
somebody
Coming.
close.
Oh,
Oh, goddamn.
That was very nice of him.
This kid is hurt.
Everybody
He's
to
almost
go.
got a shield. Fuck, he's picking up a purple shield.
There's at least 2
Alright, I'm
over
with you.
here. By you, yeah.
Yeah, one's getting shot at from the roof
Yeah.
before we originally landed.
Oh, they're trashing me. What? Where do those bullets? Oh, I guess he hopped down behind me.
Yeah, there's all
Yeah.
3 of them right there. That was a whole fucking other squad.
I guess that was 3 squads total or something. How did I not get the kill on that one kid? How the fuck did that happen?
No good. NFG.
What's that? NF, the new rapper? And he likes God, right? I get it. NF, the rapper likes God. You know what I'm talking about, NF?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
Christian.
I don't know if he's a Christian rapper. He gets put in that category, but I don't think he is. He's more.
Somebody said that, and then I started listening to lyrics. I'm like, oh,
He's
yeah.
very
Like,
positive.
every song was like, praise Jesus, church is the best.
I don't know if it's like that.
Praying to God for forgiveness. I mean, not quite that forthcoming, but it's all about definitely stuff like that. Huh?
It's all about what?
It's all about religious undertones, for sure. You actually pay attention to the lyrics. I started paying attention after somebody told me. And I was like, yep. There was some girl that I met at the bar. She was like friends with some girl I know. And she was just one of those cunts. One of those cunt bitches, you know. And then she's like, oh, you ever hear of NF? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you know they're real religious? I was like, oh, I didn't know they were religious. And she's like, it's a he. It's not a group. Which I know. But I'm like, oh, I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna fucking argue with you, bitch. Like, she's just one of those type of people. Not even joke around. More like, she's just a weirdo. Alright. Sorry for insulting your fucking Messiah, bro.
You should have been like, oh yeah, well did you know that God's not real and religion's a lie?
Yeah, like, and some people really get like if you don't like what they like, or who they like, you know, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Oh my god.
Did you not have a gun, Grim? Here, take it.
No, I did, but the last bin I ran to, we were running to at the same time, so I ran into a different
I'm bringing light
set of
ammo for
bins.
you.
Oh, 2 dudes over here.
Alright, I'm going around the back for a little flanky flank action.
Burning them. One more. Dude's hurt.
I can't tell whose gas is whose, so I'm just like,
Oh, behind me?
I'm
Oh,
like
what
a
the
villain.
fuck? Dude's on the train, I guess. Yeah, dude's jumping off the train on you.
Oh, back there.
no.
Shit!
Whole other squad.
Oh my god, there's 2 more motherfuckers over here.
Yeah,
Oh,
they just hopped off the train.
Oh. Oh, spaghetti-o. Oh god, I'm fucking dead, bro.
Praise be to NF.
I need to take a minute to heal up. I have my health heal? Come on,
Praise
man.
be to NF.
Praise be to NF. Yeah, that's all I have. I have no health heal. Let me check these bins. Maybe I can do a banner recovery. There's a whole other squad. Ooh, got a blue bag to carry all the stuff that I don't fucking have. Oh, God damn it. NFG.
It's the newfound Jesus. It's the newfangled Jesus, actually.
Hey Zeus. Stop fangling my Messiah.
Well, I mean,
bro.
it's newfangled because he spells Jesus with a G. The newfangled shit. So Kim walked in today. My iPad and my Apple Pencil. My Apple Pencil came a couple days ago. It came. I was bid on a iPad Pro, a 12.9 inch first gen. It was like $300. So I bid on it because I'm like, all right, if I can win. I mean, I bid like. I mean, it was like 275, and I bid like 350. I figured that'll give me plenty of, leeway. If I get it for 350, that's a good deal. And I was winning for like 2 days, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna win. It's over in like another 2 days. So I bought an Apple Pencil. I'm like, either way, I'm gonna get an iPad. And I'm gonna work on some digital art. And then so I bought the Apple Pencil, and then I wake up one day and. On the last day, and it was
and it's over and you lost.
It was over like 2 hours before I woke up, and it wound up going up to like 4 something. So I was like, shit. So I bid on another one. I lost another. Got too high. I backed out. So I'm like, I'm just gonna find one that's buy now, because I was looking for the 12.9 inch one, but then I was also looking for like a high storage because you can't add storage to them. But I wound up getting a 9.7 inch that's 128 gigs for like $300.
How much are they buying now?
It was like 340, I think, is what I paid. 340, yeah, 340, something like that.
Ah, you bitch.
But you don't need the 100. You don't need the 128 gig like I got. You can get the 32 gig for much cheaper. I'm coming.
I got that one.
Down somebody. I don't know where they are.
The down person is dead.
Up top. Somebody's zipping towards.
So there's their box there, right there. Oh, we just got silenced.
Oh,
Shit. I need the armor that's in it.
Where are they?
Where the
On the
fuck
roof?
am I getting shot
I don't get
from?
it. Where are they? Where are they?
No.
Anybody
No, I don't
Are they
know.
in there?
Yeah. Yeah, he just ran.
God.
Oh, he's dead.
My shields away.
Yeah, I got down.
Let me. Alright, you got. Alright, cool. Does anybody have one more shield cell? Actually, here's your. I got a med kit for you.
No,
Okay.
I don't have any. I can't. You know, my.
I have one. I was trying to recharge with it.
You go. If you, oh, never mind. I'm telling the new shirt.
Down here's not looted. I'm gonna check this shirt out.
There's two white shirts in here. Grab one of them.
Shit, all I have is a shield battery. I don't want to use it for the last guy.
I just told you there's
Yeah, I
two
have a blue
shirts over
shirt
there.
though. I don't want to give that up for a white shirt.
Oh, I thought that was zero. I keep thinking you're caustic for some reason.
I just told you,
I can give you a shield battery.
give
I
up
found
your
one.
good shield for the shitty shield.
Just take the white one. I told you. You'll have way more health than right now.
Thank you. No, cancel that. Why did that not switch?
Yeah. No, I wasn't trying to ping the late ad, I was trying to ping this shirt.
Somebody's flying in?
I just found a shield cell for you. Oh, okay, I'm trying to get the...
2 people. Yeah, they landed somewhere over there.
One down
Nice.
in the middle of this shit. No, he dropped down, Shield broke.
He's dead and gone, motherfucker.
Dead and gone.
Yeah. Here's a cell for you.
Dude. Oh shit, yeah, I actually don't have any others. Doesn't say Grim gave me one, but yeah, thank you.
The Phoenix getting here.
Oh shit, I'm doing it again. I have way too much light.
Do you have a
Yes.
prowler, Joe?
I have a select fire though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I grabbed it out of that box.
Alright. Train coming in? No, it's leaving us. Leaving us. Yeah, people have been here. Oh, but they actually were able to open the vault. There's still some shit.
Oh, sucker ass
Barely.
machuckas.
Purple shotgun ball.
Purple sniper.
Lucky me, I have an extended sniper mag here.
Lucky me.
3X and has been over here.
Yeah, double SMGs. I'll take it if I find like a 301. Maybe I'll swap out the 99 for it.
Gotta hop up here. Select fire.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Barrel stabilizer
Oh,
here.
there's a
Level 1.
flatty
Behind
line.
here.
Somebody right here.
Oh,
Being a little bitch running on the grass.
Stay
like
off my
bitch.
lawn.
Yeah, I cut that shit.
Spidey robot time. No.
There's other people shooting at him. There's a whole squad
No,
over
stop.
there.
okay, where's the one
From the
shooting
left.
at him
From
from?
the left.
From to the left, like
Okay.
under there somewhere.
Oh, there's a thing behind us.
One dude's on top of the truck.
Shot fired and they're hitting me. Reloading. Giving my shields a recharge.
Sorry, I had to take the loot pick out. They already know where we are, so.
Shot down a cargo line.
Oh, the wall's coming in.
Oh, we got the wall coming on. Maybe we should just move in, yeah.
Let's go. We can. I can give that syringe to you. I just grabbed it because we gotta run.
Keep eyes on the new kill leader.
We can come out this other door.
Oh wait, we got split.
We'll have a good, it's too late now. Yeah.
Optics here. Mid-range. Armor here. Level 2.
I need some heavy ammo really bad.
I got 90. I can share some with you.
There's 15 right there. You want to go get involved in this fight over here? Where'd they go?
Why am I having trouble
Oh, they
finding you
ran
guys?
away.
Yeah, hold on.
Chase.
Careful, Grim. We're
I
pretty
got
far from you.
a vault key.
Just
No,
so you
I'm
know.
literally like 5 feet from you. I was at the same distance between you and Joe.
Oh,
Grim, don't go
oh,
any
my bad.
further.
I
We're
was
so
looking at
far.
it. Wrong.
I'm getting scared, guys.
I'm gonna
Stop
check what's
pulling
down this hill real quick. So I have a vault key. We can do the vault.
Let's
That
head this
vault
way.
if we want.
Do you? Did
oh,
both of those
yeah.
teams not come toward us?
They went all the way back behind those rocks or some shit.
Okay.
One squad chased the other one because they tried to run away.
Gotta hop up here. Select fire.
Yeah, we both have psych fires. We're good.
Syringe here. Light ammo here.
Oh wait, now Joe's robot.
Yeah, I've been robot all night.
Wasn't it just opposite? Oh, I kept thinking that gas guy
Yeah.
was you for some reason, and robot was zero. That's what
Yeah.
was happening. Okay. But same thing.
Are we pushing that vault? So everyone goes.
Oh, I thought we were going
That's
over here.
well,
Oh,
I asked,
okay.
and then we were still talking about fighting that guy. But yeah, we can go. That's what I want to do. I want to go. I want to go.
Oh, we
That's
can
why
go
I've been
that way
going
to the
since
vault.
you
Okay.
said something. Yeah.
Only 30 seconds left on the
Somebody's getting brought back behind us, but that doesn't matter. They're way behind anyway. Oh shit, yeah, we gotta get through this shit. It's, oh, we're close, never mind. Circle's about to
I'm
close.
hearing people.
10 seconds. The ring is fairly close.
Whole squad right here.
Okay,
Little peeps.
we're
They don't know
100
I'm here.
feet behind you.
They're running towards that big
All right,
building.
I can
over
set
there.
as a zip if we just want to.
Alright.
Oh, and there's another squad over there. There's two squads fighting here. One's
Do you
where the
guys
red
want to
is,
stealth
one's where the
around
yellow.
them and
Oh, there's somebody right
wanna
here.
stealth?
I'm gonna light them the fuck up. Yeah. Get him?
No.
almost. She ran around that box.
Pulses.
Yeah, I don't know where she went.
There's a dude on this round.
Yeah, they
building,
got
too.
a Watson shit, so we can't throw grenades from underneath me.
Shit, there's two of them under here, Rachel.
Wraith is down.
Joe, there's one right.
Yeah, I was being shot
Yeah.
at in the back too.
Yeah. Too many dudes.
And that Bangalore just came and cleaned up our mess. Son of a bitch.
I can't believe that fucking Wraith survived when Grim shot at her, then I shot at her. I mean, hell, fire. We must have done a lot of fucking damage. She must have been like real low health. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
she was definitely really low. She did her escape move.
You can be robot
Yeah,
again, Zero, if you want.
If you want to
No,
play
be
him, go ahead.
bloodhound. I gotta get 625 damage for him for a
Alright.
daily quest. So yeah, this is like our final form in like anime, Dragon Ball Z. They get in their final form. This team configuration is our final form. So when we kill all the
Right.
heroes.
I'm ready for this. I am so ready for this. I am extremely ready for this. Are we ready?
Introducing your champion. When the battle gets too noisy, I bring the silence.
Oh, I'm a jumper master.
Move.
Alright, Grim is back. I guess let's do the sorting factor. That's a big old fight shit all the time. It's a nice big area. It's in the center of the map enough that we can get fight, and drop a 20 bomb.
20 bomb.
Sorry, what'd you say? 20
20
what?
bomb?
Uh-oh. Somebody's in my bin. This is not good. No gun, at least.
Yeah, me neither.
Is somebody over there? Gotta get the fuck out of here. Oh my god, somebody's falling in front of me.
No guns.
I'm coming.
no guns. My
I got 2
gosh.
guns.
Opening fire. Frag out. Lucky up. Frag out.
Where they at? Where?
That dude's fucked up. He's not dead yet, though.
I'm trying to run upstairs, try to find a gun.
Oh, somebody wants to be up here and be sniping at my motherfucking team, bro.
Alright, I need a road guy.
You wanna
Fucking
snipe in my...
Not cutting it.
Whoa,
Fucking
whoa,
go.
what the? What's that? Yo, I ran up the stairs and aimed down sight, my 3X, and I was looking at the ceiling. And I got tore the
Shit.
fuck up.
Why would you?
It was the
Ceiling, man.
craziest thing. I've never experienced such a thing in my life.
Alright, there's 2 shirts up here. Zero, there's a shirt up here.
I'm
If
Oh,
you need to get
I'm gonna
one.
look in this round building. I just killed a fool. I'm gonna try to take him out before his buddies come.
Another squad just came in and is like shooting other motherfuckers.
Shit.
Oh my god.
Somebody's
Joe.
after me.
Take whatever you need. Take whatever
Why?
you need.
Where'd you put your box, Joe? Yeah, if you have heavy bullets. Oh, yeah.
There's
let
2
me
guys over by the round building.
get your
At least 2.
Eva.
Take it and go save the day.
I hear them.
Do you not have any heals?
No. Come on, Dome. Get the fuck out of here, Dome. Dome. Get out of here, Dome.
Get rolled, bitches. Don't burn yourself.
Gonna get through the fire? No? Oh, that sucks. I'm fucked up for no reason. Ah! It hurts. It hurts. Ow.
And your box fell back on
Oh,
top
shit.
of you.
Fuck. Yeah. I had my gun out. I think I would have climbed faster if I just put it away. Or I should have tried to fight him at least. Fuck, man. Oh well. I had a prowler with a select fire and I didn't even get to use it. And I missed that burning stick. You saw it. I was lined up while I was waiting for
Yeah.
that dome. It looked spot on, but then it didn't fucking hit.
Yeah,
him.
no,
You saw
yeah,
it,
they
right?
stepped
Like,
back.
What was that?
They weren't in the same place anymore. Yeah.
Oh, is that what happened? But how
I got a
both
feeling
of them
you're back.
noticed step
Well, they
back?
got
That's
up and they like
crazy.
started to run away, and you threw where they were.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
a little too late. It was late.
It's a good day to take out some pills and be back in time for dinner. Got pork chops tonight. Love pork chops. If they call finished, be there.
Yeah, and burning my blue shield off didn't really
No.
help matters
Once
either.
that happened, you probably should just
I
step
thought I
through
could
and
just hit-
grabbed it.
Close enough. What's
Once that happened, you probably should just step through the fire and grabbed it rather than try to go around.
Yeah. I thought I could grab through the fire without, because there's a little distance in there.
Good squad means good win.
Apparently not
Yeah.
that far.
Follow the leader. That's me. Or don't. Whatever. As long as we win. How about this way?
P2020. Oh, we got somebody here.
There's dudes in the middle
Wraith
building.
over here.
Wait,
Yeah,
in here?
Wraith is
I'm
running
hearing
away, running down here.
Fucking shit. Oh, she went through the fucking
Yeah.
door? Alright, you got triple take. Through here, where you
I
going?
was looking for something besides P2020.
Oh, behind me
Oh, she
over
went
here.
through, I see footsteps. She went back up there.
God damn it.
Alright, well. I need to find a real
Yeah,
Robot
me
with
too.
an
That's what I was
L-star,
trying to
I'll
do.
find people. I can try to.
Yeah.
Joe, shirt right here, shirt. Or there's one in here. There's two over there.
There's somebody in here.
Oh, there's somebody right in here.
I did some damage to him.
Oh no, it's trying to get you up. That sucks.
It's a whole squad.
Fall off. I don't think I can fight you bitches. Yeah, with a fucking triple take. Yeah, fucking triple take versus 3 dudes. That shit ain't fucking happening. Wish I would've literally any other fucking gun.
I mean, we could have swapped. I could have gave you P2020 for it.
I don't know. I might prefer
So
the
not
triple take
quite
over
any
that,
other gun.
honestly. Yeah, almost. We're not that far. It probably would have been better though, because I could have, you know, when I'm popping each of them with like a bullet here, a bullet there, I would have scared them and they wouldn't have charged me. When they know I can only shoot every 3 seconds, and it's impossible to like fuck anybody up, basically. I should have just left and got a gun. Damn, out of all that whole first room, and all we had was what? A triple take and a P2020? That whole little wing? That's insane.
I had two decent guns, but I got shot in the back before I could use them. Then I had like 20 health and got fucking murdered with the L-star before I could pull the trigger.
So Zero, with your banner, if you put it the opposite way, it'll actually make a picture. They're like
What are you
the
saying?
picture version. On your banner, you know how 2 out of your 3 have like a design on them? That's actually a picture that comes together if you put them in the right order. I have it for Birdman.
Oh, I'll have to take a look at that.
You have 2 of them, but they're reversed. If you switch them, then they'll connect.
I'm Birdman now. You talking about something for Birdman? I'm Birdman now.
Oh, so maybe it was you. I don't know why I keep
I was robot all night until
mixing it
now.
up every single time.
Now I'm Birdman.
And the first time you're not. But I saw it earlier too, so I feel like
Last match I was Birdman too.
unless you were Birdman earlier.
So last match and this match.
There's a regular shirt here.
I'm dropping an either if somebody wants it.
Shit's going down in the lawn building.
That was the choke. Alright, let's just pick up what we can here and we can run over there. Sounds fun.
Yeah, they went in this door. Alright, let's wait for Grim.
Yeah, I hear him in here.
On this top
I'm gonna grab that
floor.
sniper stock.
There's a grenade, that'll come in handy.
I'm backing out.
Alright.
Yeah, and there was like heavy ammo and stuff.
Yeah, it's gone down
no,
inside.
Yeah, hold on. We came back.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I told you I was almost
Yeah,
done.
and then I said I was
Right
going
there.
for.
No, I'm not.
And then I said I'm
mad.
going for
I'm
that
not mad.
sniper
I'm just
stock.
like, I saw both of you over here, so I run over here, and as soon as I run over here, you're already in that building. And what the
Yeah, I said I was coming back for that sniper stock. And then you're all moving on without us.
Alright, we're all here. Oh, goddamn!
Yeah, I'm down.
The other two are in the next room. Man, they
Alright,
ambushed
I
the
got
shit
one
out of
now.
us.
Contact with target.
She's getting her buddy up here and...
Oh my god! Jesus Christ.
Man, we are having some bad luck tonight. Those fucking guys in that next room were in the perfect position to melt both of us.
Yeah, they probably heard us coming. They're laying in wait.
I didn't even realize where you guys went. Where'd you go?
No,
The
we
other
came.
door?
Well, the
no,
guy
we
you
came
were
right
firing
past
at,
you
I ran through.
into that room.
Yeah, I
Oh,
ran
you
through to try
ran
to flank the
inside
guy
when
you
I
were
Yeah.
opened the
fighting.
door?
Through the other door, Grim.
Through the other
Through
side.
the other
Yeah,
side.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
The other door.
Because I
Okay.
was trying to flank the guy you were fighting, and I did, but then there were two guys
Oh.
in like
Well, yeah, it
both
was
sides of the
black,
conveyor belt, and they just...
Today will be one of those experiences where you'll sit back and say, oh yeah, I remember that. When they fall, we rise. Time to win and stay alive.
So, Joe, yeah. See what I'm talking about?
No, I wasn't.
The first one says, like, torso, and the one under is his head.
I have to look next time. I was looking at my phone.
Let's see this.
I don't even know what banners or badges I have.
Let's do this side, though.
How about this way?
Oh, yeah, nailed it. Now, further back. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to land right at that beam.
I'm on the other side from you.
I thought somebody
No
throwing
gun.
grenades at me.
No gun.
Yeah, you
Yep,
better run
I'm
off. I got
fucked up.
2020, bitch. You better be scared. Oh, did you
Yeah, I
fall
got
off?
one.
No,
Yeah,
okay,
this-
good. Yeah, here's a Mozambique.
There, give me one of
be a
those.
Cool guy.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
There's a shirt and other stuff down here. There might not be anybody else on here. There's a full shirt. Grab that
Well,
shit.
somebody was throwing grenades at us.
right
yeah.
here?
I don't see him now.
Yeah, that guy jumped off. There was throwing grenades. There's two of them over here.
Oh god, there's two of them over here.
Fucking
There's also gas. There's
bullshit.
three of them.
Oh, the third guy came back. Behind us. Mm.
Oh man, I am getting fucking angry. I need to refocus.
Good day to take out some fools and be back in time for dinner. I got pork chops.
Refocus.
So, like the iPad, Joe, recommend it.
Bath and Body Works was selling hand sanitizer, and I've actually been thinking
Yeah.
about that.
Hold on.
Like, I've actually been thinking about that though. Like, I wonder like how crazy Bath and Body Works is. Like, people who love their soap, like that's the only soap they use.
Right.
Like, I'm sure like it's crazy with people stocking out. The she said that, and she said it's coming like in a week. So I did it.
Appreciate it, bruh.
Spend $500 on Bath and Body Works.
120. But look, I'm so excited for this. I got 5 different shower gels.
No decoys, pretty sweet. I'm liking it. Okay, I can dig it. I can dig it.
Yeah, hand sanitizer would be nice.
No gun. I like it. I like it.
Very exciting stuff, baby.
Oh, god damn it! Bang with an L star out here. She's hurt
Coming.
someone.
Oh man, we lost one. Now I have to do extra work.
How do you like an arc star?
And
Your
she's-
body, bitch. You like it?
Nice.
Oh shit, wrong gun. I needed that gun. Oh shit. Alright, I'm going for the respawn.
Yeah, I'm on point with these arc stars today. I hit somebody like 3 times today with arc star. Playing earlier
Noise.
today also. Oh, there's somebody right down here. Oh, there's 2 squads. There's somebody else that's shooting at him.
Shit. Alright, well, I want to go back and get the respawn. Alright,
They're up
I'm
here
getting
now.
a respawn.
Yeah, it's fucking whole squad. Come on. Alright, I'm gonna run away. Alright, I'm leaving, John. I'm going to
Alright.
heal up. So, say no. Enjoy yourself.
Come on, real gun.
Now, where'd they go?
Alright, I'm coming.
Fuck, they're going over here. I fucking do not like this double tap, man. No way! I just dropped this double tap. What the fuck is going on? What do I have? One on my gun and one in my inventory? I don't understand. There's people underneath the fucking other shit. Just say no. They're far away though.
What the? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought there was an enemy
They're
there.
underneath where we land, just so you know. But I'm gonna run away
Oh, and there's a shirt in here.
so they don't fucking kill me. Yeah, there's people
Oh, yeah, one just
right
jumped
there.
off that.
I'm not trying to die, some of them here. I'll heal up my health and then I'll go for a shirt. Show me again
It's in the
which
box.
one's
Yeah,
in. Okay,
it's in the
I see
box right there. Yeah.
it. I see it.
Oh,
I'm taking
Two
off
of
the stupid
Yeah,
double
we're running
step,
up that
man.
way.
Oh shit. Come on, shirt.
Broke their shield.
There's another guy. There's a guy underneath here. You want to get him
No,
first?
yeah.
He's just going to follow us
alright.
in. Because when we're fighting him, he'll
You
come
see
up
him?
behind us to kill us. Whatever.
Just us left.
One more. At least one more. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. There's a havoc in that dude's box.
Yeah, I
if
gotta
you
have it.
want
Does he have any ammo? Yes, he does. Nice. I need that ammo.
I think the nearest revive thing is right there, but oh, the circle is closing. Maybe we should go to sorting.
Yeah, let's see. Can we carry anything from Drum's box?
I don't know.
I'll grab the key.
Take whatever you want. I have anything I liked anyway.
I'll grab the heavy ammo.
Can-
Shit, alright, I'll just grab
Take whatever you want. It's
yeah.
yours.
Well, no,
I'll
I'm
find
trying
your
to
shit. I
bring
really don't
this
care.
shit for you.
All right, I'm throwing a 99 in there.
Alright. Alright, I got the heavy ammo. I'm bringing the flatline for him. Alright, let's run in.
Will you hit the ping thing, Grim? Thank you. Oh, is that right?
It's not
Yeah.
always the closest one. So
There's
you
Yeah.
one right up there, I think.
Let's explore this way.
Oh, shit. Good deal. Okay. Here, I can throw us a zippity zip zip.
Setting up a zip line.
You almost there?
Yeah, we're...
Yep. Oh, no, a few seconds away.
Taking a moment to respond to questions.
Alright, I'm about to respawn you.
I'm gonna drop a flatline and heavy at the respawn.
Thanks.
I'm back. You missed me?
Here's your blue
Yeah, there's
stabilizer.
your blue stop.
Level 2. Extended.
I think we can get back to... Oh, we can't get back to it, I
Nice.
don't guess. No.
I'm gonna look for shirt in this shit, I guess. Storm's moving in. Yeah. Somebody
Oh,
just
yeah, we got a
rocketed
book.
it in. Oh, yeah, fuck that. I don't have a shirt. I don't really
Here's a
plan on
shirt.
engaging. Yeah, somebody just rocketed in, like right on top of right there. I'm just gonna
Oh,
go
Storm's
in.
right behind me. Here's a
Yeah,
closer
he's
shirt.
running away.
That's what I've been
Yeah.
saying. Because the storm's like right there, and I have 0 heals. I cannot do that.
Oh, I hear...
cool. Someone else is here on me.
Shit got bamboozled. Getting shot at. Bad news. Got a bad guy. Enemy taken down.
Another one, Come on, asshole. God damn, how are you still
I
alive?
have no heals. I'm just gonna die and hang on.
Yeah, I was in a fight with the squad that was fighting you there. I hit a guy twice with the scout and then like 3 times with the hemlock. I don't know why he's still fucking alive. I guess that's not quite enough.
He's probably a zombie. That's what I would guess. How else would he be alive?
Probably.
Be right back.
Let the 9 and a sparkle like bang.
Hey Joe, would it bug you to turn your music down just like a notch or something?
Alexa,
Like,
turn it down.
the audio compression on your headphones makes it come through like a broken drive-through speaker. It's
I
like
see.
you hear like a second of it and then it cuts out, then you hear a second of it and it cuts out. And
Yeah.
it's strong.
I see. I see.
This match is
Yo,
gonna be
yo.
extravagant, that's the word. I think we're going to do great, friend.
This is your champion. I may not look like a fighter, but strength isn't everything.
Mr. Happy Human Taco was the name of one of the champions.
Well, let's get some tacos, fellas.
Let's try this side of the shitty
Here we go. It's a long drop.
Scrapital City.
Something good there.
I'm hunting tacos.
I mean, everybody like a pink taco.
Not everybody. Some
Well,
people
no.
like the long sausages.
That's true.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Women are people too.
Says who?
Says the law of nature. I got a fucking charge rifle and it's not okay.
Yeah, I got a 2020. Piece of shit. Dude, I halfway feel like they've reduced the spawn rates on all guns or something, man. I mean, I'm getting shit ass.
Good.
Yeah.
I have
This is the
fucking
shittiest fucking
two shotguns. Mozambique and a fucking other gay shit, whatever the fuck it is. And there's people coming.
Oh, we got
here.
enemies.
Are you ready for a fun time? Who's ready for
Yeah,
a fun time? I'm ready for a fun time. Oh wait, I'm finding.
They just went in the bottom floor. Oh, and they're shooting at me. They're in the building next door too.
Okay, kid. This kid's almost dead, Grim. There's another rock.
Oh, where you running to, bitch?
Yeah, you better run. Who's the last one? I'm fucked up, so.
She dead. Yep.
Got her? Alright, good. Ah!
I'm
Alright,
down.
I'm
Yeah.
coming, I'm coming.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Oh, I could use that blue light clip out there. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at me. Now I got more bullets in my machine gun.
Where's this other box at? I down two right here, but I only.
Oh, yeah, in the elevator shaft. And
Oh, in the elevator shaft.
Anybody you want a flatline?
Ooh, I like me some of that. I also have a select fire. What is that? Yeah,
Is that you guys zipping?
what is going on here? Anybody have health? I have 0 health.
Yes.
I don't.
Wait, I only got one knockdown? I thought I got them first two ones.
No, I got 2 kills.
Oh no, the last one
I
ran
think
away.
you and Joe were
Someone
both
was
Yeah,
already-
yeah, I came in. The Bangalore right outside? Yeah, I got it.
Was one already down by the time I got there? Or
No,
what?
you were fighting the Bangalore and the fight pushed outside. And when I was coming around the...
I fought the caustic. I downed the caustic, and then whoever
Yeah, the
else
Bangalore,
was there,
they...
and then chased the last one out. I thought I got
No, the Bangalore that you were pushing outside...
Oh, you got
Yeah.
the kill for?
Optics here.
Yeah, when I was coming around the building to flank them, and they backed out, and I got them with a wingman shot. Down them. And then I chased the Wraith around the back of that wall, and I got her as well.
Oh, yeah. I don't think this is looted. Purple ass light mag. Damn, I need bullets. I have 40
Light?
something.
I got plenty of light.
And
Extended heavy mag here.
Somebody's
some other
getting brought
game
back.
now. 61 of the other thing.
Somebody's getting brought back right
So I
beside
got
us.
like
I
no.
just dropped a stack of light there next to you.
Thank you. Thank you. You want to push
There's a
on
U
this shit
site?
or what?
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing.
Somebody's running into here. I'm gonna look for them.
Shit.
Alright, I see them. Hold your like
kill them over
fire.
there.
Bro, hit that one for 75. He did his own.
They are both running away.
They're just bombardment. Watch out.
Turn around behind you.
Somebody shooting from across the fucking.
Oh, another guy
Oh,
behind
getting
us.
shot
I've
by
got
another
this shield
bomb.
back there.
Ah, they're on this side too. Another right here.
I'm dead.
Ah,
Right up top. You see him? Oh,
had to get third partied once more. Unbelievably. I mean, because, you know, we almost never get
I
third
know, that's a
party.
rare occurrence right there. I should clip that.
We usually get fourth and fifth partied too, you know. instead
Yeah,
of just
no, the third party is super rare. The fifth party is what is the super common one.
that's what it's all about. It's all about number 5 poet.
Either you're with me or you're against me. Or you're with me and against me, because that happens. Ready to go. I am prepared for the fight.
Introducing the champion.
Like my brethren before me, I veil slaughter. I will guide us to victory below. Let's land here.
Alrighty.
Yep. Better lies below.
Let's check it over there.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I landed in the wrong spot and I'm getting punched in the back.
I hear,
Yeah, I hear people.
yeah, I hear
Right.
caustic setting traps up.
That's what you get
Yo.
for following me, bitch. You like it?
Yo,
Oh, that's
this
it.
dude
Yeah.
talk. Dude,
Someone else is coming.
you have to see this.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for the help.
Alrighty. Now I'm dead. Somebody there. Run up to get their teammate up. Nope, they're just gonna stay and kill me. Right there.
Got his shields broke.
Okay, got on it.
Got him.
Enemy taken down.
Really? I thought this shield's already broke.
Hold on just a second, just a second. Where you at? Where you at? I didn't hear what you said, Grim. The game was too loud.
I thought I broke his shield when I was shooting at him.
He probably... Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll have popped a cell or something.
Maybe. Anybody have any help?
I do not. Yeah, like 3 health.
Oh, somebody shooting. Oh, yeah, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, there's somebody
Oh,
fucking right here. God damn, I'm out of here.
Okay.
I'm going
I'll
somewhere
take
else.
that back.
Oh, you gotta be goddamn kidding me.
Coming.
I'm on my way. You know where they're at?
Nah, no hostiles.
Where are they?
Oh no, it said no hostiles. They must have.
I know this caustic.
Yeah, how did he? How did he not say? How did it say no hostiles? They're both right fucking here. How did it say no hostiles?
Who shot you?
What the fuck is that?
What the yo? I need to clip that. Dude, my gun stopped shooting.
Yo, that caustic, I landed, guys, and I was in this building, right, with closed doors. A gas trap appeared in front of me. Nobody came in the building. Nobody opened a door. It just fucking appeared, and none of us were caustic. I clipped it. I'm waiting for the fucking clip to upload. It just fucking appeared through the wall. And it's like, what the fuck?
That's some bullshit. I post when I was jumping down the steps, the opposite side that I went up. Said no hostiles. So like when they downed you, then they were looting your box. I shot them, then they started shooting at me.
Well, it goes from where you're facing. You're facing the opposite way. That's what happened. I could see your shit go out.
They don't. It's directional.
What are you saying? How?
Really?
It goes in a
I
circle out from you, though. It goes in a circle from your center.
It goes out in front of you, so if they're behind you, it doesn't show. Seems like
I'm
a
not
circle.
sure.
Could 100%.
Because it's pinging people above me.
That's what it is. It's circular in front of you, but does not go behind you.
Okay.
That's the drawback of it.
It's gonna be
Yep.
extravagant, that's it.
I mean, you just saw the proof of it right there. Dude was obviously right behind you. That saw you pulse the other way. He was there the whole time. And they even extended the distance that it resembles.
Yeah, it went like 3
but
times
you just have to be
as far.
facing him. Yeah. So it's only in front of you. Like, probably, I don't know what the angles are. Maybe anything to your right or left and in front. Something like that.
Oh, this is the best part. Might be something good there.
Yeah, you would think it would just go everywhere. It would make more sense. Who would make something that only goes in front? Yeah, this is dumb.
Yeah, I thought
Oh
I'd
my
seen
god,
it
I'm trying
like
to
radiate
the
out
car.
in a circle.
Oh no. I don't even think I can make the train. Nah. Alright, I'll catch up to you guys.
There's a
Okay,
blue
I'll
guy
jump
here?
off as soon as
I'll
you...
just leave this. Nah, you don't gotta jump off. Nobody else here. Just loop the whole train. Hit these bins. I'll meet you there. If you can throw his shirt off the train. that'd
Yeah,
be
I can...
sweet.
Oh shit, is this ever going to end?
I don't know where it stops. It might go far as fast.
Yeah, that's the shirt.
Oh, yeah.
You want to jump off, Joe?
Oh shit. That is far.
Yeah, if I had a zip, I'd throw it, but
No
it's not
balloons.
charged.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll live there. This town's been looted where I'm at. So it means there's probably people
I'm just
here.
checking distance here. 200
Oh, we got
meters
somebody-
to grab.
Possibly close to us, Joe.
Alright. Yep, just, I heard him.
Yeah, we just got pulsed.
You got bamboozled.
Oh, I'm gonna go get that shirt. Where are they? Where'd they pull
I don't
from?
know.
Somewhere
assume
right
the
around this
city-
rock. I mean, past this rock.
Check it out. Making contact here. Someone's gotta take out the new killer.
I think I hear people that way.
Get out there and bamboozle.
Probably on the other side of that rock or some shit.
Yeah, a minute ago I saw people fighting in that building. And now
People
you
up
can
there.
hear them.
Someone's being brought back right here.
Where do you want to go? Where's people being brought back? Oh, that's up top.
No, we
That's-
don't want to. We don't want to push it.
That's
Alright,
uphill
no,
battle. We
no,
can do
it's
that if
fine.
you want. I don't care. I'll do whatever. These
I'll
cool
dump
guns,
down
shotgun
as
bolt
well.
if you find one maybe, because that's all I really have.
Yeah,
Extended light mag here. Level 1.
So we gotta be careful. They're on the roof over there.
there's dudes in this building as well.
Yeah, I can hear them.
Yep, both on the second floor.
Second floor.
Third floor. Nope. He came down to second. He's burning. He's burning. I mean, I'm burning.
Make up your mind, Zero.
Somebody, as long as somebody's burning, I don't care who it is.
Sending out my decoy. Throwing arc star.
Did he jump?
Must have. Oh yeah, I see. Foot.
Probably.
They jumped this way.
Scared him.
They went back here. I hear them.
10 seconds. The ring is fairly close.
They went this way.
I don't know, man. I can't tell where the fuck they're at.
Yep.
Wraith hole right here.
Oh, she took it before she get down. Oh, you took it? Oh shit. Oh, Wraith came back through.
Got one.
Yeah, there's like another team here already, wherever they went.
Oh.
Wraith is behind us.
Got two. Shit. There's another one in front of me. Okay, got three. Shit. I'm almost out of ammo.
What do you need?
Oh,
Oh shit,
up
I only
above.
have one energy bullet left. Fuck. Is there anything to switch to? 40 energy bullets.
Any heals? Okay.
Alright,
Thank
I'm
you.
going up for Grim. Hold this cluster. Somebody's coming.
Think. Yeah. I think they're on the second floor. Shit. Oh, one below us now.
Shit, do you have any throwables?
Oh god. Oh, there's a dude punching me here. He's gonna punch me to death. Here they come.
Get him, Joe.
Yeah. Too many motherfuckers.
Spotted one.
It's a hell of a battle.
Hell of a battle. Yeah, Brett.
I make this look good. Literally, this hair, this face. Oh, come on.
So yeah, so this thing only going out in if it's directional, that changes everything. I have to see the see if it tells you that, like when you check his abilities, because like if it doesn't say it in game, which I don't think it does, like how the fuck are you supposed to know that? I mean, it's just some bullshit. That's blue, so I don't want to take us to blue. If he's not back, so. Try to land him on the roof. Oh, he's
I'm
back,
here.
okay.
You're all right.
Oh,
You're all right.
there's a
Mr. Joe.
Gibraltar here.
Oh.
I'm zipping back up.
He jumped down somewhere. He's not on the roof anymore. I don't know what floor he's on.
Okay.
But he's in this building somewhere. Alright, I'm gonna try this sniper.
Yeah, I hear some shit.
L-Star here.
I guess he's left.
Body shield here. Level 1.
Right here, I got
Oh, here you can have you can have. You can have that
no,
ammo.
I don't have any heavy bolts.
RE45 here.
Do you have any? Do you need light?
Yeah, if you're not using it, I could use it. Oh, you running sniper too? That's funny.
Yeah, for a minute.
There's a charge rifle down the bottom there. Or not charge rifle. Yes.
L-Star.
Up top.
Alright.
Oh, coming.
Hear 'em. Now they're right
Yep.
here.
They're in the car.
Oh yeah, I just saw one of them.
New kill leader. Soon to be me. Ronar Star.
Going underneath this way. Towards this way.
Yeah, I saw somebody toward the front of the train too. Maybe he just. Okay, maybe that was him jumping or something.
They went in here, it looks like.
Oh, okay. Back there, they went in the train station. Grim.
Okay.
Yeah, they went out this door, it
Where's this
looks
fucker
like.
at?
This way. I hear them zipping in that building.
Someone traveled through here. Let's explore this way.
Okay. Yep. They might be on the second floor.
Yeah, they were all over in this building.
45 seconds. Ring's not too far. I'm okay with that.
Where'd they go, dude? These guys are slippery as
I'm gonna
hell.
shoot this cargo bot.
You slippery motherfucker.
I'm gonna go check it out. I don't know where they are.
I guess they just don't want none.
And I got a vault key.
10 seconds. Gotta help up here. Double tap 3.
Warning. Room closing.
3. Extended heavy mag. Prowler SMG here.
Alright, so the closest vault is right here. We should go do that before we run out of... Before it's in this one.
Do that vault. Oh, wait. Are all vaults... Is there still shit in any vault, or are all vaults vacant?
Yeah, we just saw one the other
I don't know.
couple
that
games ago.
It wasn't the other day, but we saw one today
Yeah.
that had shit in it. So.
Yeah, that's right.
You
That's right.
fucking got me.
Care package being delivered.
I can't tell if there's enemies around or not. I'm just not used to having people around me when I'm running.
I hear somebody zipping.
Yep.
I don't know where the zip is. But we should go to the vault. We're gonna lose that. We should go to the vault.
Yeah.
Might be something good this way.
Any footsteps?
No, not this way.
I have opened the vault. Slide it in.
Alright, everybody's got something.
Barrel stabilizer here. Level 2.
Wait, which way did we come from? I can't
Came from that way.
remember.
To the north.
Came from there. Oh, so we have to go.
Yeah, we have to go that way.
No, wait.
No.
Oh, we're going
We go this way.
Yeah.
You go through the circle, right?
Any way besides
Yeah,
the way that I tried to run. It's the only way that wouldn't work. People were here like 90 seconds ago.
Heavy ammo here.
Sniper everywhere. Holy shit.
This long building's been picked clean, it looks like.
Somebody was over here 70 seconds ago. Oh, somebody was here 8 seconds ago.
Someone traveled through here recently.
I can.
Oh, Grim
I
on
can
Joe
hear them.
8 seconds ago. I'm almost there. Oh yeah, I hear him.
Death box here.
Oh shit, Carlos left fire in his box.
Shit, who's getting fired at?
I gotta go heal up. Did you hear me, Grim?
Taking him out with a decoy.
Shit, I don't have any shields.
2 down, I'm down.
Threw my grenade out. Throwing through my grenade.
Shit, I gotta shield up.
Recharging my shield.
Reloading. Enemy killed. I took care of it. Don't worry.
Shutting
Just
down.
made a
Fucking
Hawaiian
colors
pork roast
dying.
out of that fucker.
Wait, I have a purple shirt? What the fuck?
I'm down.
Yeah, sorry, I just
alright.
need to grab some shields. Didn't have enough to film the whole thing. There's a purple shirt in there.
I
Somebody's
got.
here?
I got.
Somebody's coming.
Yeah.
Got him.
I gotta change my batteries.
Where are you?
Shit's
Where are you?
dying.
After that enemy squad escaped.
Nice work. You're good.
Your fight is not over yet.
Yup, you are wonderful. Thank you.
Alright, I'm swapping. I'm dropping
Energy ammo here.
Dual select fires.
I am repairing myself.
1 minute until close. Rings nearby.
train just pulled in, so those
You
things
need-
are gonna be open.
Okay, you need syringes?
No, there's actually 8 over here, so I'm good.
The ring is in close proximity. Less than 1 minute.
Grim needs heals, so he's one shot.
Only 30 seconds left on the clock. The ring's close.
Yeah, there's 4 syringes and 2 cells. Blue sniper stock if you want.
No, I dropped the sniper.
Alright.
I found a gold prowler.
Man, Grim's got to soak his batteries in oil so the controller can't jam.
Yeah. Telling you, having a rechargeable thing is like, it's so awesome.
Alrighty.
Just gotta patch myself up. Hang on. Wake up.
There's like 2 select fires there, Grim, if you've got a prowler.
Yeah,
I
I got
don't
one.
think I saw a prowler. Okay.
Sam, get at her.
Light ammo here.
Yeah, have that.
There's all kinds of shit.
Storm's coming in now. We got 45 seconds.
Incoming care package. Syringe here. Got a hop up here. Select fire. Barrel stabilizer here. Standard stock here. Level 2.
No optics fucking anywhere? Oh, there's one circle.
Yeah, I think there's some
Alright, we
sort of
gotta
optic,
move.
yeah.
Storm's here.
Okay, yeah.
I have a circle on my 301 I can drop and give you.
That's fine. I found one. I'll be okay. Won't die.
Heavy ammo here.
Hear distant
Ooh,
fighting.
2x. I'm dropping that anyway.
Kinda sounded like geyser.
So if you want that second circle, and I picked up 3
Oh,
Phoenix
shit,
kits
it-
out of one of them boxes when the storm was coming in. So if y'all want them,
Yeah, one of them had mad fucking shit.
if y'all
in
want
there.
Phoenix kits, I got one for everybody.
I got one.
Yeah, I'll take one. Yeah, I saw the one at ridiculous amount. I took one, but I usually did it.
Shit seems to be going on over that hill.
Okay.
But I think I also heard some shit from, here, I'm throwing this, oh well, there's a zip.
There's one over here.
You got bamboozled. Look at you.
Oh, we have to move this way. Yeah, something's going down up here.
Oh,
Whoa, that guy
Oh, shit.
said it's going down right here. Oh, you want those smoke, homo?
someone's pushing to the right. To that.
1 minute before the ring closes.
Is that you activating
Yeah.
the Birdman shit? Yeah, I think they ran away. Besides them motherfuckers. Oh, goddamn.
I am taking
Yeah, they were running away, but then they turned to shoot back at me. Oh shit!
Alright, we're getting third parties. We should come up with a plan to not be third party. That's
Yeah,
it.
you
I
better
gotta
run,
push
you
the guy that
big
ran away.
bitch. I hit that.
Oh, he's back.
I
He's
hit
back.
that dude
Then
for
let's
one
go
shot.
that way.
Shit. Grim,
He's
somebody's
down.
attacking Joe from behind us.
Go
Okay.
this way. I'm throwing our side.
Okay, well I was in a fight, but
Okay.
I'm gonna finish this guy.
Took out a hostile. That was good. Give him my shield to recharge.
Shit.
It's
Oh, I'm
right
being shot.
there.
I'm
my
being
shields.
shot. I'm coming.
Nope, I don't even have any more troubles.
Recharging my shield.
Or is he still on the rock up here, Grim?
They're like 75 to them over there.
You got bamboozled. I am taking fire, friends. I am down.
Oh, he's almost dead. He's hurt real bad. He's right up. Oh,
Contact with hostile.
There's that gay gem shit going on.
What?
oh, way to go.
Motherfucker, crawl in the circle if you
Yeah,
can.
we're in.
I need to
we're
get
in
out
safety.
or else I'm gonna fucking die. So you're in?
New kill leader.
Alright.
Yeah, we're both in. Only one other squad, so you guys heal up. And... Okay. I'll get Joe up.
No. There's like boxes up here. Two Phoenixes in here if you just want to use that shit.
Okay, yeah, I'll pop the Phoenix I got and then get one more.
Taking the moment to
Man, there's like no bullets and shit. Fuck. Is
What
these
kind
the
do
only
you
box? Oh shit, I have so many med kits, bro.
What kind of bullet you need, Grim?
Light, heavy. Mainly heavy.
Okay, I can give you
use this
heavy.
Prowler, but I got all this gay shit on it and no bullets.
There's like something like
Yeah, that's
77
alright.
or something.
Okay. There's no bullets in here? Where the fuck's all the bullets? I don't understand how the three of them could be fighting us.
Oh yeah, I
you
haven't even
just-
looted any.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
they
you
Out of
used
these
to-
boxes.
shoot me in the fucking head.
Or the purple barrel.
Doubles, yeah.
I got syringes. You guys are just dropping med kits.
Yeah, I'm okay on how.
Ow.
One other squad. Hope it's one person.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
45
that
seconds. Oh, there's a hole here. Good.
Oh shit, we
I
should
didn't see this on the map.
Okay.
Oh man.
Oh, I
There
don't
was this
either.
hole
Yeah,
in the
that's
map.
Yeah, that Bangalore didn't die
That's
when
weird.
Fuck.
downed her.
People are shooting over in that cave. You hear
Yeah,
'em?
but it's
I gotta
all,
turn the
yeah,
game
but it's
volume
just it's the last squad, so they're just luring us. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think they're like around to the left. If I had to guess.
We should let them come get this.
Oh, they're
hey,
popping
15
smoke
seconds till
over
the
there.
circle closes. Okay. Okay.
It might be in
They
the
could also
building.
shoot that smoke from anywhere.
Oh, that's
That's
true.
horrible.
Yeah, I think they're spread out trying to lure people in, but that circle's about to close.
Somebody's here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's 105 to 'em.
I broke his shield with the arc star. Broke one of their shields with an arc star.
Down one. We got a gold shield.
She's on the roof. Broke her shield.
They're on the roof.
I don't
Where's
know.
the last one? One left.
Hear him inside, I think.
Go to hell, homo.
Oh, somebody's got a gold or something.
She got a purple.
Kill these other bitches.
Right here.
There's two that went down. How is there
They had a
still
gold
somebody
shield,
left?
yeah, they
I
had a gold
downed
knockdown.
these fucking people. Somebody got themselves up.
Yeah. Bada bing.
All right. Fucking needed that.
Yo, where's those celebratory pop-offs?
I was popping my bombs on the box.
Oh.
Shit, man, we were
we're all putting
stomping
some work
ass.
in.
Yeah, we almost had the
Dude.
same damage.
3 squads. We
Yeah, it
killed
only
a
shows
good
me my
team.
thing.
So,
It only showed me
Right.
my card. How'd y'all do? Yeah, that's cool. Fuck me. Alright.
what do you mean? You're still in the lobby.
Oh, what's
I'm in the
what's
lobby.
happening with you?
Yeah,
we're all in
everybody's
the
just
lobby.
ignoring me as what's happening. But it's cool. It's cool.
What'd you say?
It's
What?
cool. No, it's
What'd
cool.
you- what-
It's
sorry,
cool.
what'd you
It's
say?
cool.
I had to turn the game volume up because you guys were talking to that. I couldn't hear
It's cool.
footsteps. My bad. I'm just trying to get serious for the games.
Cool. I'll be back.
This is my favorite part. Ahead, we talk of victory and contra.
It'll be fun. And if not, well, we all make bad choices. You live, you learn. Life goes on.
This is your champion.
Alright, I'm back.
Alrighty. Who's back?
Did you see him? The leader, that's me. Or not, whatever. I mean, as long as we win. How about this way? I'm gonna cancel that.
Whatever the first hanging box on the left is. Oh, we're going slow as fuck also. I don't know.
gonna go down to this shit.
Alright, then let me break off.
Havoc here.
You still trying to practice with snipers, Joe?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I should definitely practice snipers. They're always around.
Gotta hop up here. Select fire.
First blood.
Bad guy.
I'm good on that.
Arcs down here.
Thought I needed those shits.
Dude, it's in really bassy thunder going on tonight. It's like coming through my
Got the
headphones and
bass
shit.
in that thunder, man.
Dropping
Got
bass.
them good beats.
Gotta hop up here. Select fire. Helmet here.
Alright, I'm gonna go to Vizal. Where the coolash is
I'm
it?
gonna go grab
Oh, you got a key? Okay.
stuff up top.
Oh yeah, I got a key.
Backpack here. Level 4.
This is gold stuff for everybody. Contrary to popular belief, I only grabbed one gold thing. I just happened to have 3. I found them elsewhere.
Wow, that's some of the bassier thunder I've ever heard.
I heard that.
Oops. Coming through the mic.
Bass on, bass on.
Optics here. Close range.
I really need like another gun, ammo. Did we loot the whole chain yard or no?
I don't know.
Most of it at least. I didn't hit the barn.
Yeah, I didn't do the barn either.
Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh shit's going down. Where is that? Oh shit, guys, my power might go out. It just flickered it.
Oh.
Right here. Oh no.
Alright.
Firing. Lucky us. We are already inside the ring.
Try to get on his ass.
Throwing through my
Alright, I'm
grenade.
going through where he ran.
Throwing through my grenade.
He's getting burned it in the corner. Like a bitch. He's gonna die from burning. Got him.
I killed an enemy.
Yeah, he backed up a little bit
Probably
out of
his
it.
team.
Oh, Grim, you almost dead.
I know. He's gonna get up.
Phoenix kit here.
Easy. Oh shit.
Shit, coming. Joe, we can't
Yeah,
hear your
that's
voice. Use your words. I saw him outside the door to the right.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Shit. Yeah. Oh, another one.
New kill leader.
Yeah,
You
kid.
bitch.
Oh, another one.
Got played, homo. Where's he at?
buddy up. Yeah. Grim. Yeah. Oh, I hear somebody else, dude.
That's not cool. I have like no fucking bullets, man.
Oh shit, where's it at?
Alright, take cover.
Fuck.
Take cover, Rob.
Yeah, I can't even... Oh god, I tried. I don't know where it's even at, dude. Oh, up there.
Oh, I'm getting shot in the back. I gotta move forward.
Yeah, there's one in the tunnel here.
I'm back. Alright, yeah.
You got a whole squad here. I'm just tracking her for you. She's coming up to you.
New kill leader. Soon to be me.
Oh no! Under the fucking fire, bro.
Shit.
Come on! Oh, just made
Oh. Oh
it.
no.
No! Oh god. This is fucking rough.
I'm trying to distract.
I'm out of bullets. Where you at, Joe?
Yeah, you see. I've got
Joe.
gold something.
Waiting
Oh, I
long,
got a backpack.
so.
Right to your
Where
right.
they at? I don't see him.
He hopped off the thing. Somebody else right?
Yeah, third party.
Good try,
Kudos.
good try. Shit.
No, wait. There were still 3 of them on the same team? What?
Good damage. I'm trying to share this clip with you guys. Hold on just a sec.
I may never come home. Clippity clip.
See if this message includes like a link to the damn clip or not, because it said share.
Hey,
See all
turn it
sharing
on.
options.
Yeah,
And then it
it's a
said
magic
message.
attachment.
Where'd you get some attachment and an Xbox message? How do you even do that?
Go to the push Xbox button, go to the upload thing next to settings, and then go share last capture.
Oh, it's a
Well, I'm
capture
showing you.
sharing.
Share last
I
capture
don't
and
know how
then
you can
message.
get images on your Xbox.
It's not. It should be a link to a
Yeah, it
capture or
is.
Loud and
something.
clear. Better lies below.
I'm watching it right now.
Isn't that what I said? Capture? You said no.
Well, you said
Yeah,
an
you said I don't know
image.
how you get an image on an
You said an
Xbox.
image. I thought you meant like a picture.
Oh, well, yeah. Capture is an image.
It's more of a video.
Okay.
Taking some damage.
Cool. Oh, such a video
Yeah.
you have on there. For some reason I was
Yeah,
seeing
no,
the
yeah, you
picture.
captured it.
I didn't know
on
you could
your
even
phone,
share.
how it
even
appears.
message. No, on Xbox. I didn't even know you could share
Oh,
videos.
okay.
It wasn't long enough.
Yeah, I
I just
just
assumed that
now.
you
This is
couldn't.
the first time I've ever done it. But yeah, if you look
Wasn't
at that
long
clip
enough.
fast forward to when I land in that building.
Oh, it's just when the thing appears.
What do you mean?
Okay, I was like, yeah, it stops right after that. I thought it was like when you never mind. I thought it was like a fight that I was waiting for.
Yeah, so you saw it just pop up in the building.
Yeah,
right?
I think he threw it from behind you.
What popped up?
Caustic trap.
Maybe. I don't think so, dude. Did you see it flying in, or did it just pop
let me
up?
Go back and watch it again.
I mean, maybe he did, but I don't know. It could be. It could be. I want to look at it real quick now.
What flew
Caustic
in?
trap.
I didn't watch it. You threw it. You're the cost. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Zero? Are you drunk?
Crazy caustic drunk.
He's the worst kind, I'll tell you. Last time I was huffing caustic gas, woo-wee, I
Loud and clear.
regretted that shit real
Better
quick.
lies below.
Damn you, internet. Go more faster.
Taking some damage.
Yeah, it does come in from behind you.
My bamboozle's been foozled.
And he sets up another one too, on the steps.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, okay. Alright. Yeah, P, I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
I just hope I don't have to fight with that smiling robot. I'm just kidding. He's
I'm
fine.
not afraid.
Everyone's fine.
I'll never be.
Let's have fun, friend.
This is your champion.
I'm the jump master. This time. Let's make a choice. Land here. Dropping in. Hang on.
I'm back.
Alright.
Alrighty. Guess where the train's landing, if anybody is interested.
Alright. Yeah, nobody's on it.
Here's somebody.
Oh, somebody did.
Somebody's,
Just, yeah, they just
somebody's
landed. Yeah.
coming. They're coming for us,
Oh
bro. They're
shit!
coming for us.
I'm running like a. Oh god! I'm getting off here. Oh fuck! I'm trying to get something in the bottom of the train station.
Caustic's on
And
my
there's
dead,
nothing.
but I am 100% dead. There's a blue shirt on the back, and I'm crawling away.
First blood.
And okay, well there's an L start.
Wonderful. I am taking fire, friends.
I have a gold sentinel I can give it to somebody.
Taken down. I am down.
Killed one dude. His buddies got me.
Contact with target. Making contact with enemy.
you happen to have any heals
Yeah, I
at all?
got 2
Yeah.
syringes.
New kill leader. Watch for them. 1 second, we got this.
I guess I'll eat your dinner now, huh?
That's it.
Someone's gonna take. I just gotta patch myself up.
Woo-wee. 100% sound the motherfuckers. Ain't looking good.
Oh, yeah.
Teammates banner.
Up the
Where are
top,
you?
yeah.
Up top.
Blue shield. Here for something.
Contact with hostile.
No bamboozle.
Yeah, they use this box as a trap. And I fell right for it.
Yeah. Gold Sentinel. Still gay.
And yay. Got the first Havoc skin.
Oh, so you hit 100? Cool.
Listen, I've been training all day, so it's about time we do some fighting.
They'll never catch me. Grapple, locked and loaded.
Introducing.
Viene. This may be the last time you compete.
Oh, that's gross. I'm looking at the Wish, and they have, I don't know, something.
Best part.
It's $1.76. It says can dissolve 100 kinds of plugs, and they're pouring like some thing that looks like salt or baking soda out of a little pouch into a toilet that's full of brown gravy and like lunch meat. Is what it looks like. It's so gross.
What the?
Oh, there's a
Revenant
squad in here.
just jumped
I'm not
off
by
when
myself.
I-
Yeah, okay.
Yep, they got all the guns. I gotta go somewhere to find a gun.
Oh shit! I don't know who to
Go
go
to
to.
Grim.
There's another one here. I don't know if I can take all
Yeah, I don't
of
have a gun.
myself.
I landed
I'm
with
trying to
you,
get up
but
there to
there's
you.
no gun. Everybody's attacking
No, I
me.
landed. Oh.
Alright, I have less than a clip left. I broke your shit with that. Alright, I'm coming. I got
I'm coming.
one
I'm
more
coming.
box of bullets.
Got one over here. I'm trying to execute on you, shield. I'm almost dead.
Oh, did I just punch you into a fucking box, bitch? I think I did. Suck my dick.
Oh, there's two dudes up here.
Still don't have
One
a
dude
gun.
now.
Yeah, down one and almost the other motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Too much.
Okay, I'm down.
Alright. Yeah, I don't have a
There's only
gun.
one guy
Still
up
don't
here.
have a
You can
gun.
Get up here.
Well, I'm
Oh, okay.
over here. I crawled all the way out of the
Shit,
way.
I was running back up for it.
Okay.
Fuck. Alright.
Watch your back. I won't always be around.
Alright, I can get your banner with my drone. Zero.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm going over here to do that.
I got
Yeah, I
heals
don't have
if you
any
want some.
heals, I
got
don't
two
have any
syringes for
guns, I
you.
don't have anything.
I have no fucking, yeah, I've not even a full fucking clip in my fucking RE45. Did what I
Zeros.
could, but we needed everybody on deck for that one. It's already been looted, right? So might as well just leave, you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm good to go.
Oh, here. Oh! Fuck, watch that fire. Dropping them behind me.
Oh, they're using that respawn.
Oh, great. They just used them.
Let's pick
Fuck,
another
they probably
direction.
That killed.
Just-
Let's go over there. Fuck it. And I see a train.
Rings close. 1 more minute.
It looks looted, but there's a white shirt.
Shirt's the only thing I got.
Something
Right off the
left.
dude that I punched to death.
I got the sweet white bag off of it. I enjoyed it. I
I got a
enjoyed
triple
it.
take now.
Ah, 32 light bullets. Fuck yeah, I'll take that.
We're close to the ring. Get prepared. 30 seconds left.
How do we get to the closest circle of this shit?
I need something besides a triple take.
I dropped the RE45, but I barely have bullets.
Here we go. Here's an I-45.
These train bins. You're doing train bins first,
Okay,
right?
no, I went to the house.
Yeah. Fuck, yeah, they're gone. Alright.
Yeah, the ring's catching up to us. They found a new kill leader.
Storm's coming. We can go this way.
This way.
Can we ride the train to safety? Yeah, the train will take us in.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, hop back on. Yeah. And then there's one, like, right
You want to hop off
there.
now? Oh, there's bins right here.
There's a new kill
Yeah.
leader. Shush me.
I'm gonna hit these bins real quick.
Yeah, found a supply bin here. Care package coming in.
Knockdown shield here. Level 2.
And there's one back up by the tree also. But everything's open here. Oh, someone's using the one that I wanted to use.
dang.
So maybe we can do the tree. But people might be here, so watch your ass.
Extended light mag here. Level 1. Faking him out with a decoy. Body shield here. Level 1. Here I come. Back from the sky.
Yep, they're pushing us. And they're zipping up to over there.
Shit.
Oh, that's not cool.
Yeah, I don't even have full health yet.
Oh no.
I've got eyes on one of them over there.
I'm gonna send my drone in the air so we can get some eyeballs.
Oh, I see them. Yeah, watch out. There's a motherfucker right there.
Shots fired and they're hitting me.
Oh, and they
Shit,
just
I'm
got, like,
looking. Oh, I see him, okay.
Down one.
Oh shit, there's a dude behind me.
I put one down.
What the fuck?
Oh, that hurts.
Ah, there's a laser guy.
Oh, they're getting them up.
Hold on. Shield recharging.
Yeah, it wasn't behind me, it was...
One of them's right here.
Oh, there's another guy right here. Coming up.
This guy's almost dead, this is
Boy.
costing.
Oh, he did his ultimate. I don't know where he went.
Wraith up here fucking me up.
She just... She jumped off.
Oh, is nobody dead yet?
Shit, storm's coming.
Right
Yeah,
here's the last one.
Yeah, I'm trying to heal up. They're on the backside of that. What? Man, fuck this. I'm fucking done.
I'm not done yet.
You just walked by her. Yeah, well, you were below her.
There we go. Squad.
Yeah, I don't have any heals, so I'm dead
Yeah,
as soon
me
as I
either.
get up.
So, we better loot these boxes, huh?
Where's your box?
Just hit any of these boxes real quick. There's like 2 right by your face. None of them
No,
are up there.
I'm sorry. I was trying to find. I'm running. I was trying to find Joe to get him up, and I couldn't see where he was at.
No fucking heals,
One
dude.
med kit, but I'm not gonna hit.
I didn't find any yet. Beans kit. It's
I'm
fine.
just
I
running.
get it.
No,
Beans kit.
didn't have time to get it off anyway, so I was trying to drop it for you.
Oh, and
Yeah.
you have the med kit? Oh, no, I can't give Beans
Yeah, I
kit.
was trying to
med
drop
kit.
it for you.
Oh,
so.
God.
Alright, well I think this is it for me.
I don't know, maybe. I might get it. I might get it.
Oh God,
You just
I've
run
got
in.
people up above me.
In, Joe.
Alright.
You just run right in. I'll check this box for heals. Because I should be able to make it in at least. And then if you crawl in, we should be able to get you in. Nope, no more heals.
There's dudes up here. I'm just stealthing over here because I got nothing to fight them with or anything. Well, I got
Damn,
I got
that was rough.
15 health or something. I'm gonna.
Yeah, just
oh,
crawl
I can't
in.
get him. I got
Be able to
15
make
health.
it.
There's dudes walking around right above us.
Well, no. Oh,
Yep.
shit.
Oh, we just got
Yeah,
fucking
they're
pinged with
probably
sonar
away
too.
from me. God damn it. Just walk in the closest path.
Wow, that was impossible.
God fucking damn it, man.
Oh, shit. Alright, fellas. It was fun earlier while it lasted.
Joe, do you want to play one more? I was going to play. I've got to do some work around the house. I was going to play one more
No,
if
I'm
you feel
done.
like it.
I am done.
Alright.
Alright, fellas, I'll see you probably Wednesday, I
Yeah.
guess.
Alright, good games, Jay.
Adios,
Good game.
fellas.
I'll play one more, but I gotta go to bed.
Alright.
Later, Joe.
See ya.
Have a good one, Joe.
Alright, so yeah, I have as I was telling them, I got a, Alexa, pause. I have an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil I just got, so I'm gonna do some of that, work on my digital art. I want to make emotes and stuff for the channel, stuff for fun. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll figure out how to stream that. The best way is either just a camera down on it, or to actually stream from it. There, maybe a camera on my pretty face. I don't know, but I'll figure it out. But anyway, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Whether it's Facebook, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, whether you're here for a minute, 5 minutes, 10, an hour, whatever, I do really appreciate it. It means everything to me. Shows me that somebody at least thinks what I'm doing is interested enough to stop by or wants to support me and does so. I also appreciate the engagement that I get on the social medias, mostly Instagram, but it's Mechanic on all socials except Twitter. It's Mechanic G, and I also have another Instagram that's art.mechanic. That is drawings and illustrations, paintings, and yada yada yada. Will be some digital art. There isn't any on there currently because I had a drawing tablet for the computer, but instinctively I want to like pinch to zoom and twist and stuff, and like I have to go in and select different things and whatever, and it just became a bit of a hassle. So I don't know, maybe I'll do a giveaway for that. It's barely used. I don't know, whatever. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Those that didn't stop by,